The sport of off-road racing is full of incredible stories, wild characters, legends, and even villains. We cover it all on offroadracer.com, but there's only so much we can put down in an article. Sometimes we have to dig a little deeper, and that means sitting down with some of our industry's most influential characters and hitting record. Welcome to the Off-Road Racer podcast, a Mad Media production, made exclusively for offroadracer.com. Each month, we'll go beyond the dirt into the homes, shops, and lives of the most interesting and game-changing icons of our sport. You'll hear about their history, success, failure, and everything in between as we pull back the curtain and reveal the stories of their lives. I'm your host, Matt Martelli, and this is the Off-Road Racer podcast. All right, this has been a long time coming, man. We've been talking about doing this podcast for I don't know how many years, but we're finally getting to it. I'm stoked to have all you guys here with me. Man, it's going to be good.
Got the family together.
Right. You want to run down some introductions for people not watching this on a video?
Sure. So I'm going to introduce my secret weapon, aka my brother, Josh Martelli. First and foremost. Secondly, we've got my brother from another mother, Jim Beaver here, and my other brother from another mother, George Hammel. So it's going to be a good.
Somebody gets around. I just don't know who it is. Got a lot of brothers from bunch of different mothers, dude.
Absolutely, but that's a good problem.
Matt Martelli's friends with everybody.
Yeah, he is.
There's a couple people I'm not friends with, but we'll save that for another podcast. Super excited to talk about probably the most important thing I feel right now in off-road, because it's ours, but the formation of our new league, Unlimited Off-Road Racing. I'm going to let my brother talk a little bit about how this came about.
Well, this has been something you and I have talked about for 10, 15 years since we first started coming to off-road races and, being lucky enough to film them initially for race teams and then getting picked up by, some bigger companies to provide, photo and video coverage of these races. But, I think we said publicly, right, in 2020 when we became independent with the Mint that this was the goal, to build a league one race at a time. And I think we learned a tremendous amount from, spending 10 years honing the Mint into what it is today. So it shouldn't surprise anybody. We've been talking about it for 3 years. I feel like every time we put out a press release, we remind the public that we're doing it. And so it's time to go,
Well, I feel like timing is really, really crucial in all these, launches of this stuff. And to be honest, I don't think it could be any more perfect.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's been some challenges with the other leagues, lots of different things. I don't want to get into picking on those guys, but it's our time, and I'm excited. I'm charged up, especially, now that we just recently acquired Parker, your hometown. So, talk about...
Acquire the whole city, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, you got a lot of headaches ahead of you.
But, it was really fun coming into town and talking to everybody and seeing, the response, on their face when they're like, oh, the Martelli brothers are going to take it over.
I think the biggest thing with Parker is the good and the bad of it is the race has been around for over 50 years at this point. A lot of people forget that, and it had it's come in different iterations, starting with the Dam 500 way back when, and then Score came in and, they ran California and Arizona side, and things like that. But, and then there was Whiplash and Best in the Desert and now you guys. But it's like people in Parker have, been a part of off-road culture from the start, within a couple of years from the start. And, I think the biggest thing is they've seen the highest of highs. This was, Parker was the very first ever trophy truck race back in the early 90s. That was where the thing debuted, and they were running on different days. And, they remember ESPN TV cameras and the helicopters and the biggest names of sport, and Parker was the place people forget. That's where all the new equipment debuted. It was the first race of the year. It was the Daytona 500 of off-road. So all the new equipment, somebody had a new build, a new truck, it always debuted at Parker. So the people of Parker, they remember that. They have these, awesome memories of things downtown, and I think they see what you guys have built with the Mint, and that's what's got people in Parker excited. It's like, all right, Parker's finally going to go back and, take its spot in the off-road world where it, rightfully should be as one of the top events.
I like what Jim's saying there, because that reminds me of, like, in a different world in dirt bike racing, like Anaheim 1, right? There's no bigger vibe than Anaheim 1. Like, do you guys have plans to kind of, I don't want to say mimic that because off-road's different, but to follow those same traits where you just have that level of stoke?
100%. I mean, you can say mimic. I mean, we look at a lot of other sports, and take notes, motocross, supercross, F1, IndyCar, NASCAR, really anything we can learn from, concerts, festivals. So, yeah, I mean, our plan is to not only return it to what it was, but like the Mint, make it even bigger.
Dude, that's going to be so cool.
Yeah, and the nice thing about meeting with the folks in town, with the mayor, with the county district supervisors, the Chamber of Commerce, Melissa, everybody there is so excited, and this is so important to the town economically, right? Like, this is millions and millions of dollars worth of revenue that flows into the county and the city when these races are there. And so, it's already been kind of an amazing red carpet treatment. Even the BLM, the coordination and communication with the BLM has been fantastic. So, we got some work ahead of us. We want to make sure that we're being smart about year one, rolling things out and making sure that we've got the staff in place and these things are successful. The last thing we want to do is, hype something up and then roll out there and not have a solid performance. So, we're going to spend the next 2-3 months working really hard with the town, going out and pre-running and honestly having candid conversations with the locals. Like, the impression that we've had is that the last couple of years, things have gotten a little rowdy out there, and we need to find a way to make the race safe and make it, economically a huge success for the town. And I think luckily we've got both the roadmap for the Mint to follow, but also the 2 years of UTV World Championship that we did up in Havasu. It was the same BLM office. It was the similar challenge of communicating to folks how they spectate safely, and we pulled that off. And I think that's part of the reason why we were awarded that permit is we have a track record with that office.
From a business perspective, I love all those things, but the biggest thing that I heard Josh just say was the people. Like, that to me, it just hits me in the heart, because that's what really matters to everybody, right?
Well, that's what this culture's about. I mean, that's what makes this culture so great and so powerful, is the people. It's the fans, the volunteers, the people who help us put on the race, the racers. That's what it is. It's a culture.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, and I've always, Parker, I think when we did, you guys came and filmed a video with me a couple years ago, we were announcing my new program, but my dad said it in there, and he goes, off-road, or Parker is an off-road town. And I think, it truly is. And I think that's one of the biggest things is, the people in Parker eat, sleep, breathe off-road. When they're not, when there's not a race in town on the weekends, everybody's out, they're in their UTVs on their dirt bikes and their Broncos and Jeeps and Raptors, and they're out, having a good time. And I think that's one of the things. People eat, sleep, breathe off-road in Parker. And I've said this before, and I've had people laugh, and I'm like, take it to the bank. I was like, there's 1 square mile in Parker. And I'm like, that 1 square mile, per capita, there's more off-road winners in that 1 square mile than there is anywhere else on the planet. People laugh, oh, what about LA? I'm like, not 1 square mile of LA. Right. I'm like, 1 square mile in Parker, more off-road winners than anybody on the planet.
Yeah, and I'm honestly just really excited to unlock the value, like talk about the OGs like your dad and Manny Iscaria, and it was funny because I was talking to a woman from the Blue Water Casino yesterday. And, I explained a couple things about the race tour, and she goes, yeah, I know. My mom raced the race and won her class. And I'm like, oh, that's Parker.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be an amazing way to kick off our first season as a league. To have Parker with that rich tradition now be part of our umbrella, and then to rally from that to the Mint 400, which will be, I believe, our 56th year, that the Mints run, and then from there go to what'll be the third annual California 300, all for, essentially a Triple Crown points championship. It's going to be mental. Like, we're completely fired up about it. We've got so many cool things in the works that we've wanted to do as a league that, we're going to be able to activate on and pull the trigger on. And it's all kinds of stuff. It's stuff to make things easier for the racers. It's stuff to make things more fun for friends and family that are coming to spectate. I mean, you think the live stream was rad this year for the Mint. Wait till you see what we have lined up for 2024. And it's all about promoting the sport and growing the sport and making it easier for folks to enter into the sport, whether they're coming in as a racer or coming in as a spectator or even a sponsor. There's millions and millions of dollars being spent, for example, in the overland industry that aren't necessarily flowing into desert off-road races that should be, right? Every single person that shows up at Off-Road Expo should be coming out to these races and interacting with our fans and our racers. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to grow the sport and use this new league as a platform to reach people that maybe we otherwise wouldn't have reached.
I love the standard that you guys are setting, but give me a breakdown as Jim and I with our racer hats on. Like, what's the league and like what can we expect from everything?
Yeah, good question. I mean, some of it we're still figuring out, but I think the thing is, in the same way that we kind of pushed and revolutionized online registration and have pushed to make things easier for racers, just the sign up process and understanding how to access the information, right? /racer info. I mean, our cousin Kilian has spent years now, building a single repository for all the key information on how to race, figuring out how these points are going to go. Same thing. Like we're doing that this year, and we are going to have a Triple Crown champion here in October when we conclude that series for the California 300 this year. So similarly for that, like we'll present to the race community, hey, these are how the points are going to work. It's not going to be a radical departure, I don't think, from things that Score and Best in the Desert have done in the past, right? There's some solid 20, 30, 40 years worth of logic behind a lot of that stuff. I don't know the nitty gritty of it off the top of my head, but what I can tell you is that years have been spent thinking about this stuff, and we're fired up to get going on it finally.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we are going to make changes and evolutions, but I think it's all going to be for the positive. And I'm sure there's stuff that, we're going to step on our dick on some stuff and, have to make adjustments, but that's part of the deal.
Well, you guys are talking like from a big picture standpoint as far as the business. I'm talking about little Johnny Racer guy or Jim and I we just show up with our helmet and our ride, you know what I mean? Like, the vibe's going to obviously be a lot higher than it has been in the past years because of what you guys are setting, but you guys have the Triple Crown and you guys have certain things that are going to benefit the racers.
Yeah, I mean, content is a big one, as because you've been, a big part of us, and working with us on the live stream and developing, some of the new in-car technology, but the future is just going to be bonkers, Very quickly here, we will be able to live stream from every vehicle, from motorcycles, from everything. That tech it's right there. So get ready. That's going to be a big change, and really just bringing our level of the Mad Media level of content to every event.
What I can't wait for is when we give the opportunity to grandma sitting at home to be able to just click on little Johnny and be sitting in the car with him to be riding on the race. Like, how fun is that going to be?
100%. I mean, it literally gives me goosebumps thinking about it, because our biggest challenge with our culture is that, we race in the middle of nowhere. So unless you go out there and see it, it's invisible. And that's our biggest challenge going forward, is to, make it visible. There's a lot of things to come. We're working on a lot of cool things. Coverage, content is a big one of them.
Yeah, and I think like you touched on it too, George. Like, the sport benefits when friends and family can come show up and watch you compete.
Yep.
And I think what we've shown at the Mint, and we definitely demonstrated this out at the California 300, inaugural California 300 last year, right? Like, not every desert racer likes lap races. We get that. But by doing that, it affords the ability to build a midway, to have a legit start finish line, to build a stage that these guys can get up and after their race take a bow on. And it's just a cool thing when your friends and family have a place to sit, watch you on the live stream, and engage and just check out everything that's going on. I love point-to-point races. We've shot Vegas to Reno and the Baja 1000 22 times in the last 30 years. We've chased point-to-point races all over the place, but the reality is like it's extremely difficult, for your friends and family to do that. And then, there's safety concerns with chasing and all this other stuff. And so it'll always be a part of off-road racing, and it's near and dear to our hearts. But in terms of promoting races, producing them, putting all that stuff together, I think we've just developed a unique formula that allows people to engage with these events. And so, Johnny, your racer, you show up and hey man, there's a place for you and your 15 buddies and, grandma to sit in the shade, have an ice cold beer and watch some damn off-road racing,
I remember going to school, like back in high school, and like I'd come back from a supercross race or whatever, and then I'd be sitting at the Thanksgiving table and nobody would know what the F I just did. Like they have zero idea. Now they can watch it and it'll be a topic of conversation. Like for little Johnny Racer guy, he's got to be so hyped. And then, so what's the Triple Crown deal?
Well, we're gonna run that down in just a second, but I want to add one more thing before we do that, which is what people need to understand is the economics of this, right? And so before the Mint, and I'd say before King of the Hammers, the economics of this weren't working out in America. So it was the value was diminishing because we didn't have a big economic effect. We couldn't get people to support us. Now we have that, and we have a proven track record. So when we walk into a door, people already know who we are and a level of money that we're bringing to the table. They know that it's going to be $40-50 million impact on the city, and they want that. So it changes the game, because if you noticed, the narrative now no longer is like, hey, we're going to close down the deserts. Now the narrative is, hey, bring your race to our town, our city. We want you guys here. We want your money. So
yeah, and I think the other thing, the other important thing to say about this is we didn't get here alone. We're here in the position that we're in launching this league because we have an amazing group of friends and family, and they are family, and we've created a culture within the organization that is thick as thieves. I mean, we back each other up, we take care of each other. So I'm talking about the 150 volunteers that have come to the Mint for the last 10 years. I'm talking about the relationship that we have with Motorsport Safety Solutions, providing, retrieval and safety at our events. I'm talking about, the Shellmans and the people that run our finish line. I'm talking about all these different groups that if they weren't doing their job at the level that they're doing, then we couldn't have races this big. We couldn't entertain 490 vehicles and race teams like we did at the Mint this year. So we have to take a moment and pause and thank all of those people that helped us get to this point, because it wasn't just Matt and I running and charging forward. Yeah, we're up at the crack of dawn working on this stuff, and we never really stop. But behind us and next to us are a legion of people who have helped us get here, and we're very, very grateful for that.
And I think one thing, because I know we got to go to the next topic, but just talking about what you've assembled with your 3 races, Matt, going back to talking about the Mint, King of the Hammers, I think we're at a different crossroads than we were in off-road. And there's a lot of old school off-road people that are going to be listening to this. And, people remember the way things used to be. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that people now, there's plenty of those races out. You know what I mean? That you just want to go sit on a tailgate, go pit in the middle of nowhere and not deal with people. But people now have hard-earned money, and it's getting harder to earn because inflation's going through the roof, so there's less dollars for you to spend. People are going to go spend a weekend somewhere. They want an event. They don't just want to race. They don't want to watch cars go by for a couple hours. They want somewhere where they can bring their family, their wife, their kids. They want music. They want shopping. They want entertainment. They want the whole package. And I think that's why you guys have been successful. I mean, King of the Hammers, they build a city out in the middle of the desert for 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think that's why I'm completely on board with what you guys are building. It's because you've got 3 marquee events, and it's something that people, even if you don't like off-road racing, you want to go to the Mid 400. I mean, I know people that go to the Mid every year. They never even make it to Prim. They literally just go to Fremont and never leave. You know, and so I think that's one of the important things you got to take away is it's not race marketing anymore. It's event marketing. You've got to build something that's got a little bit for everybody, including the racers, including the fans, including the people at home that are just watching the live stream. There's got to be more than just having a race out in the middle of nowhere.
100%. So I just got Killian to text me the point standings for the Triple Crown. So here's the update. We're going to start with Unlimited Truck. Number 1, Adam Householder. Number 2, Eric Hardin. Number 3, Sterling Miller. And number 4, Chris Herdich. So
Nice.
there it is, right?
Nice. Top 4 going into Cali 300, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, nice.
And then in Unlimited Truck Spec, of course, Dustin Grabowski.
Right.
He's a beast.
These guys are savages. They better move up because they're almost winning overall in this truck. So
Dude, I know you're not done with the list yet, but all I'm thinking is how much knockdown, drag-out MMA off-road racing is going to be at the California 300 because these guys are going to be so on it.
They're going to be pumped.
Oh, that and our course changes are going to make it even better. So, number 2, Terry Householder. Number 3, Andre Lauren.
So we could see a householder sweep of Spec and Unlimited Truck.
Which would be sick.
That'd be pretty rad.
4th place, Pat Gailey. And then we're going to go down to the next class, which is, I'm trying to figure this out here. Kind of weird format. I don't know. It doesn't say.
Matt, pull that mic closer to your face.
Yeah.
You're gonna sound too reverberant if you're not up on it.
Yeah, no worries. So those are the top 2 classes. We'll update a little bit later with the rest of them.
Nice.
Awesome. So let's talk about some other races that occurred already. Starting with the first one of the year, King of the Hammers. Pretty wild event. You guys were there.
It's almost like I've said, and I love Dave Cole to death. He's built just a beast of an event. It's almost to the point where I think it's met its maximum capacity of people. Like it's got that out of hand out there. And I mean that in the best possible way, but that's a lot of people out there.
I'm still coughing up KOH dust.
No, it was fantastic event. I mean, lots of really cool racing. I mean, probably for me the coolest thing was the Class 11 start. I mean,
that was highlight of the whole weekend.
Epic, man.
They lined it up and just sent everybody off in a mass start, and that was the coolest thing. They didn't get very far after that, but that mass start was really cool.
I think my favorite thing about like Class 11 and the whole resurgence and even that race, like I was talking to LR, which I put Larry Rossler up on a pedestal. I mean, he's 100%. one of the goats, you know. And Rossler was telling me, you know, here he is driving a Class 11 car. Here's a guy who's won everything you could possibly win in desert racing.
Right.
And he goes, I am driving my ass off. He goes, I'm literally driving this, and the competition is as tough in Class 11 to win and to podium as it is in racing and trophy truck.
Yeah.
And you know, when you got Larry Rossler saying that, going, I'm driving my ass off, and it's just as hard to win in Class 11 as it is in trophy truck. I mean, that's saying something.
Yeah, and you know, like when you see those guys, and that you can just see them inside trying to whip the back of their horse, trying to go faster and faster. Like I can totally see him doing that. Like, come on.
Oh yeah, I mean, I shot Rossler driving backwards at Vegas Reno to get to a pit because he had lost all 4 gears. I mean, the guy's a legend. He's savage.
I thought it was cool that KOH allowed vehicle recovery via helicopter this year. I hadn't seen that.
Allowed that? Is that in air quotes?
Yeah, well, it was interesting that was Robbie Gordon, right? That's the shot that's going to go down in infamy of his UTV being hauled out.
The funny thing is I guess they had asked Robbie, and, you know, they said, you know, they had to retrieve it, and they go, oh, you know, do you want us to go around? He goes, no, take it right over Hammertown. He goes, I want everybody to see. Because social media that Robbie got from that. Everybody's posting, look at the speed. And Robbie's one of those, there's no such thing as bad publicity at this point. So he's like, no, take it in front of 100,000 people. I want everybody posting to social media about the Speed UTV.
He's definitely not afraid.
One of the other cool things that I liked, well, and I might be out on my own island here, was them bringing back the short course stuff. Like, all those guys got to bring their Pro 2s and everything back out to the crowd. Dude, there were so many people hyped on that. I mean, like Ronnie Anderson, Doug McTagg. Got some sweet shots of Doug McTagg just blowing flames out the side of that truck.
Yeah, I love the crossover. I mean, I feel a little bit bad for the Ultra 4 guys because it seems like, you know, every year some new stuff gets added and they're the show, frankly. I mean, the race this year was pretty straightforward. It wasn't like a lot of lead changes per se. And it was a repeat of last year. The Gomez brothers won again in the same vehicle too.
Between them and Shear, the last couple of years, it's just been a dogfight between Gomez and Shear.
Well, and, you know, I got to give a big shout out to Joe from UFO who built that car. He's kind of a quiet guy. A lot of people don't know about him and his vehicles, but like you won back to back. You know, somebody, I don't know if they're going to sell that car, but if they are, somebody should buy it, you know?
Yeah, definitely. There's going to be people lined up for that. It's like when Kyle LeDuc was winning all those races and still selling his trucks off. You know, he had a line of people trying to buy those Pro 4s.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, yeah, Hammers was great. We had a blast. We stayed out in some, you know, hippie yoga retreat just outside of Hammertown. So my crew had a good time. We got a lot of good shots and, you know, had some barbecues. So it was good. And then the Mint. We went right from that to the Mint, and the Mint was a blur for us because we were barely sleeping. But I don't know, Josh, did you have a good time? I had a great time.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite Mints in recent memory for sure, and I think a lot of it had to do with like just so many cool things happened, right? You know, everything from Mayor Goodman coming on as our Grand Marshal, our first female Grand Marshal. And, you know, the governor showing up kind of, you know, under the radar and racing with us. The you know, I didn't even know, and we knew Cain Velasquez was racing with us, but we didn't know Chuck Liddell was going to show up and hop in the car with them, right?
Gosh.
So how rad was that? That was, I mean, I saw Cain at the finish line. He goes, "Yeah, Chuck just left." I'm all, "Chuck who?" He goes, "Chuck Liddell." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
And he wasn't the only heavy hitter, too. You got motocross Axel Hodges was there. That was really cool to see everybody getting into it.
Yeah, this was the biggest, you know, and I've been doing this for a better part of a decade with you guys, you know, racing it and, you know, commentating. And this was the biggest Mint in recent memory. You know, obviously, you know, COVID kind of, you know, there was some bumps in the road, but there was a couple Mints, you know, pre-COVID that got really big, and then we kind of had a little bit of a downturn. This year I left and went, all right, the Mint's back. We're back.
Oh, 100%. I really felt it this year, and, you know, that we were firing on all cylinders, and it felt really good, you know, not just for us, for the Mint, but for off-road culture. You know, these are the type of events that'll help grow our culture.
You know, it's one thing that's kind of crazy. It's a simple solution, but you guys gave, and I think this is just learning as you guys grow, is you guys gave some of the staff, production crew, a bunch of different people an extra day to prepare. And that little decision made a massive difference on the back end. So everybody on the front end had a much better, easier time as well. It was pretty cool to see that.
Yeah, I mean, the planning and the logistics that goes into this event is pretty massive. We touch on it every year when we're thanking everyone who's involved, right? So like on one end of the spectrum, we've got volunteers that come in from 2 or 3 states over. We never see them. They're coming in late Thursday night. They go straight to their spot on the course. They're up at 6 in the morning. They're working till 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. She muted me. They're up till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. And then, you know.
Sorry, guys.
They're
trying to stop choking.
Yeah, I was going to say, everybody tuning in, we're watching the death of Matt Martelli.
Yeah, really.
We just got to embrace the death here.
It's King of the Hammers lung still.
It's everything lung.
they're up till 8, 9, it's 10 o'clock at night, and then they do the same thing on Saturday, and then a lot of them, they've got to get back for work, so then they're out early Sunday morning driving 3 states home, right? Those are the heroes. That's one end of the spectrum. The other end is some of the stuff we have to do, some of the permit work and some of the stuff we have to do to make the race happen. It takes 6 months to get all that lined up and to make that stuff happen. And it's a lot of paperwork and contract stuff. So, to your point, George, there's so many different plates spinning on sticks at the same time. And it takes a massive amount of energy and focus and time just to make it work. So this is the blessing and the curse of turning, arguably the greatest race in America, into one of the biggest events in America, right? Is you be careful what you wish for, you bite it off, and then it goes crazy,
Yeah, 100%. I was pretty tired after that event.
Yeah.
He hibernated for 2 weeks.
Well, no, he lies because he called me on his drive home that Monday.
Yeah.
I was you were up bright and early, you and I talked. I'm you were tired. It lasted about 24 hours. Well, then you called me, you're back to the grind.
I had kind of Sunday and a little bit of, I had Sunday to recover. And it's a weird thing. You go into war mode and you're oh man, you can feel how tired you are. And then you get some rest and you're just it's hard to shut
decompress.
It off, right? So it takes a week or 2 weeks before you're not waking up at 3 a.m. going, I got to do this, and this. It's
because you're still fired up, dude.
Yeah, well, now I'm rested. Now I'm ready to go invent new races, right?
Well, just looking at the stats here for a second, right? Because I put this hit list together for some of our partners in Vegas, and obviously we're at 491 entries, which is a significant leap over previous years. It's 29% over 2022, right? 1,236 unique racer entrants, right? Drivers and co-drivers. That's up 37%. Race team attendance is up 19%. The number of Mint staff, we jumped by another 17%. So going back to planning and logistics, right? When we saw the numbers ticking up on the number of entries, we went and roped in more people to help, right? So from the start line to the finish line and everything in between, we got to add crew in there to make sure that we're taking care of everybody. Our social media impressions were bonkers. I mean, over 14 million impressions on Instagram alone, and we reached 4.3 million on Facebook and another 3.2 on YouTube with the live stream and the content we produce. So,
dude, that's wild.
Dude, the impact's gnarly. It's just super gnarly. So we take a lot of pride in that because anytime we're taking $1 from somebody as a sponsor, a partner, whatever that relationship is, we always want to give them back more than they gave us. We want to make sure that the ROI on that investment is huge. Why? So that they're stoked on not just our race, but the industry as a whole. It keeps them coming back to, other races, trade shows, and supporting racers and race teams. And that's what it's all about.
100%. So Mint's done. We all take a little nap, and then boom, there's San Felipe. Everybody's are you coming to San Felipe? I'm no. But you went to San Felipe. How was it?
Yeah, I went down there. It was actually pretty cool. We took some of the same, not to go off on a tangent about the content, but we took some of the same technology that the Herps guys had for Starlink and live broadcasting. And we had a pretty successful live broadcast down there, so that was cool. But, man, it was one of the things, whatever 2023 is bringing is the vibes are high, man.
How was the 2-day contingency? Because I heard I was getting pictures, and it seemed like day one was a bit of a ghost town.
It was. But, I mean, everybody that doesn't want to go to contingency loves that, right?
Yeah.
Just get in and get out. That's the day that you go when you're just not about contingency. But the second day, it was pretty hectic. It was cool to see. The locals, the Ampudia boys,
yep.
Dude, they have to me, I wasn't there when Robbie Gordon was in his prime down in Mexico, but to me, this is the new level of commitment that the fans have with the Ampudias.
And I'm so stoked that the Ampudias are not just racing, but they're killing it, and in multiple classes, which is cool. They're great people, but man, I love that Malecon. I wish we could take that Malecon and put it over on the Ensenada side. It's such a cool vibe, like being right there on the water.
Well, this race is near and dear to us too, because the first major off-road race Matt and I ever went to was the '89 San Felipe 250. We had a buddy that lived down the street from us, and he happened to work for the McMillans, and so we got invited down to that race, and we didn't even know we were going to Mexico. We thought we were going camping at the beach, and so we end up down there, and who are we pitting for? Dude rolls in, pops out the top of the race car, looks at us and says, "Hey dummy, hand me a beer." It's Mark McMillan. We're pitting for the McMillan family in the middle of nowhere, outside of San Felipe, and that really sparked in us this curiosity, and it was really shortly after that we started looking around and going, man, there's all this cool stuff going on. And whether it was going to take camping trips with our buddies and getting on three-wheelers.
I see where this is going.
Yeah.
No wonder you have the Belching Beaver as a partner at the Mint 400 now, because Mark sparked that in you guys right away.
Oh no, we were drinking beer before we were 12. Come on, let's be honest, right?
What else is there to do in Michigan in the winter?
That's right. Those natty lights, like when you're a kid, or Leinenkrugels, right?
I was gonna say, what's the local Michigan beer? There's got to be some weird offshoot or something.
Well, it's Leinenkrugel. That's like the one for up there. But Labatt's, that was another one.
Labatt's.
That one's awful.
That comes from Canada, right? That's Canadian.
Well, we were right on the border when we were really young in Kalamazoo and South Haven, so we had a lot of Canadian influence.
So what were just to bring it back around to San Felipe, what were the shakeups? There was...
Well, Toby Price lost that whole off-road thing, it's like a $7.50 part.
I cannot believe the luck that Toby Price and Paul have. I mean, they should go to a casino and put everything on black at this point, because their luck has to turn around.
Well, I think the course changed too. I mean, adding that mileage, Polvordi had the thing in the bag, and Polvordi ended up running out of gas. 2 miles from the finish line or something, and it was because of the course change, because of the mini summit, I guess, was just too gnarly or whatever, so he routed everybody around, and it was
destined for a bottleneck, and they just didn't want to see the race stop. So you would have won with the helicopter, unfortunately, so it was good that they actually changed it.
No, I'm not opposed to it. I just I think there was some racers that their strategy, they didn't adjust it, and they should have.
I see what you're saying.
That's a hard thing, and so let's talk about that a little bit. As a promoter, I understand that position where you're like, oh man, this is could potentially cause a big disaster, but I also look at it and I kind of think we're turning into pussies. It should be hard, and it should be wild, and there should be bottlenecks, and that's part of the deal, man. This is not like, hey, everybody wins racing. This is off-road racing, and when you get to the end of that off-road race, you earned it. If you finished, you earned it. If you won, you definitely earned it.
Well, let me argue that point real quick then, because they had qualifying for the big classes, but not the small classes.
Right.
And so if that was the case, qualifying would have been the winner of the race, right? Qualifying would have meant more than the actual race did, because if you could get through that summit and not get in the bottleneck, then the only other way that you have a chance to win is from a helicopter being able to tell you to go around.
Qualifying at the Indy 500 means as much as the race.
You know what? That's true.
I mean, it does, so I think...
Listen, it's a hard balance. There's no absolute either way. Either you do a draw, and it's the luck of the draw, or you qualify, and there's guys that are good at qualifying, and there's guys that are terrible at qualifying. So either way, it's a challenge. But, it was cool to see Luke win and back up his win from last year, which was pretty much a dominant performance from start to finish.
Yeah. Luke's a beast. I mean, and I think I've used that term 3 times now on this show, but the kid's an animal. And it's not like he's an out of control animal. He's just that fast.
Yeah, 100%. Well, enough about San Felipe. Let's bring in Eric Hardin. He's our Mint 400 winner, and have a chat with him. All right, so Eric Hardin, welcome to the show. You know what's funny is the first thing I want to talk about is the correct pronunciation of your name, because our English fellow, Jim, on the show kept messing it up and calling your name Hardin.
Hardin.
No, thanks so much for having me. And that's the best part about winning the Mint is getting that pronunciation fixed. It's pretty funny. Everyone's always like, it's Hardin.
I guess
nobody knew who we were.
I've
though.
never looked at it and had a problem with it, but I guess, British, like Marsden, we're throwing you under the bus, like backing it over you and everything else right now.
Well,
but
we love you though, but
we love you, buddy.
He's fantastic.
Yeah, no, he's rad, but we are Americans, so we're going to throw out the proper pronunciation.
Because I know when I go over there and hang out with him, I'm going to get total shit based on the way I talk. So
100%.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I love too is you have your name on your front, right on the front of your truck. So we always know, oh, there's Hardin right there, right?
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I was this is the first time we've ever done that ever, and I was like, come on, guys, really? That's a lot. And then to go out and get our breakout first win, big win. It's pretty funny because you can't miss the truck,
Dude, how much has your phone been blowing up since then?
It's been crazy. Like everybody I've ever met in my entire life pretty much has reached out to me, and obviously a bunch of new friends and people I've never met.
His girlfriend in second grade, congratulations.
right.
That's rad, dude. Like you're getting the, hey, how's it going?
You know what's funny though? I hate to say if you're going to pick a Mint 400 to win, that was the good one to win, but it's like, hosting live stream, and I've hosted live stream for better part of a decade now. This is the first Mint I've got people afterwards text me, hey, we watched the live stream, you did awesome. And I don't know if I've just been horrible for a decade or if just people are actually paying that much more attention to this Mint 400.
Well, I think we're getting better, and like we're hitting kind of a pace, and people are knowing about it. But like one of the things to me that I absolutely love about this culture and this style of racing is like, all the usual guys didn't win this race. You won this race, right? But let's talk a little bit about your recent race career, because you've been racing a lot of different disciplines for a long time.
Yeah, so I mean, in the trophy truck realm, we're definitely a smaller team and a lower budget team compared to a lot of the guys. So we have to pick and choose our battles. So we've been doing the Mint the last several years. That's my favorite race. And then we've been doing the King of the Hammers the last 3 years, and we did the California 300, the inaugural one in October. But that's about it on the big races. So my little nephew races Class 1600, Cole Hardin, and so we spend a lot of time at the Moore Series out in Barstow and Lucerne, and I race a lot of those in our pre-runner as well. So that's what we race most of the time. We've won a lot of those races, and it's a lot of fun. Cody does a great job out there. So it really helps now that, some big races are coming out into our local deserts. I mean, once King of the Hammers came out there, I was like, oh, dude, this is sweet. Like, I mean, I know every racer knows Lucerne and Barstow like the back of their hands, but after doing so many of those other races, I feel like I really know it. So it's a lot of fun. And then when you guys had the California 300, I was doing backflips. I'm like, oh my gosh, Barstow's my backyard. I love that place. Most people don't because it's so brutal and so big and rough, but I was just super stoked on that. So, but yeah, our biggest win, I think, other than the Mint, before the Mint, was Battle at Prim last year. So
a lot of seat time, but you know what's cool? He's doing it well. Two things are cool. We can talk about Eric driving with his left foot.
Yeah.
And also, he's driving the ID truck.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the ID truck first and give Dave some love. I mean, this is also what I love. Like, Dave has been building parts for every major trophy truck builder for years, right? But he's never got credit for his full truck builds until now. Like, this is his biggest win that he's ever had, and he builds a great vehicle. So if you're shopping for a trophy truck, go check them out. ID Designs. They build amazing parts for everybody, as well as trucks. So, and then let's talk about, the fact that you're missing a leg, which I didn't know until the finish. I'm like, hey, dude, you're limping. You okay? And you're like, well, yeah, but I don't have a leg. And I'm like, did we do that too?
You're like, oh, what happened? Did you have a crash earlier or what?
Did you leave it on course?
But that's something that I think is very cool because, it is a disadvantage, right? like I've driven, quite a bit, and you need to hold yourself in position with one leg and pedal with the other one. Talk about that a little bit, what that's like.
It's like something I don't really think about or notice. It's been so long. I mean, I'm 40 now, and I lost it when I was 12 years old, so it's been a while. So you just kind of get used to it. But driving the race truck, I just bungee cord my right fake leg, back so it doesn't get in the way of my pedals. I just bungee cord it back up against the seat, and then I just drive with my left foot. It's a jerky ride riding with me in the race truck, because it's usually pretty hard on the gas or hard on the brakes, because there's not that smooth finesse that that I would like to have. But in that, it's hard on tires, it's hard on fuel economy, but and it doesn't help during qualifying where it's tight and technical, where being able to trail brake and do those types of things into the corners is advantageous. But when the races are more open and as the race rolls on, it doesn't really affect.
I feel like he's being humble here, though.
Do you have a custom pedal setup? I mean,
no, it's just regular.
It's
like
regular
anybody, yeah.
He's being humble.
Yeah.
Like I can tell. I mean, Jimmy, talk about a little bit about how hard it is. Like, I want somebody to go out there and try that. Like, bungee cord your left leg so you can't use.
Well, I drive with 2 feet. I mean, my trophy truck was a single seat, so it would have been impossible to drive. But with one leg. But I honestly couldn't imagine driving at those speeds. And like he said, like I'm just thinking the techniques that I use, things like that. Like it's like he's being very humble right now.
No, this is actually a fact. Do you know that like most racers who are career racers end up having hip problems because they're bracing themselves so hard with the dead man that it ends up wearing their hip out.
You've got to have your belt cinched way down, right?
Yeah, and those ratchet lap belts are awesome. I mean, dude, I can't even breathe sometimes, but you're not bouncing around and you don't have to brace yourself, and it makes a big difference. I mean, we run our setup on our truck a little bit stiffer, so it's a little harsh, but it's also a little more forgiving. So if I can't get to that brake pedal in time to slow down for like a big oh shit bump or something, or hole or corner, the truck doesn't always get through it, but it helps having it a little stiffer, but it beats on you.
We were actually talking about getting Eric like a custom seat insert or something that supports him in there a little bit better, because I think that if he had something like that, those little tiny advantages could get him like some real speed and some real finesse behind that wheel.
We'll give the Ben a call over at Mastercraft and see what we can do, right?
Right on.
But yeah, actually it was really funny too, because the other thing I learned about you at the race was from Lofton, because I guess you did some pavement racing against Lofton.
Yeah, we did the roundy round stuff with Lofton, Myers. Eichler was out there.
He was fast.
Yeah. Lofton and Eichler were really fast, and Andrew was really fast. They all won big races, and I mean, obviously Lofton went on to win the ARCA championship and lead the truck series and win races. I mean, obviously he's extremely talented. So we became friends over the years doing that, and it was really cool just seeing his career progress as the rest of us, kind of fizzled out of the roundy round stuff. And I mean, he did a great job, and it obviously translates into the off-road. You can throw him into anything and he's gonna haul ass.
That's probably why we noticed that Eric had good timing. I don't know if you remember during the live feed, Jim, but I was like, dude, he's timing stuff, like coming through corners, going over those whoops, he's wheeling over them, and he's like downside and the backside of them and stuff. It was sick to see that.
Well, I think too, obviously you got the pavement background, but I remember you guys, seeing the Hardin truck, the mini truck and things like that forever, and you guys are highly successful with that. But I look at that and I go, I think knowing that, you guys, the family, you guys have raced stuff that aren't unlimited. You learn a lot of technique from that. And so when you can apply that to running an unlimited truck, I think it does make you quicker, especially on conserving the equipment, things like that.
Yeah, it definitely helps. Obviously everybody's dream growing up and going through all the ranks is, hey, I just want to be in an unlimited truck. I just want to be in a trophy truck because they're so nasty. But it's like riding on a bike. You learn how to read that terrain, and it seems like all the bike racers end up being really good truck drivers. And I think that's why, because if they don't conserve their equipment, they're hurt bad. So.
Yeah, let's go back to the race for a second. I mean, so you got all the guys in front of you, and I don't remember, but you were qualified like
14th. Yeah, I know. I was depressed on Friday night about it. like, oh, it was bad.
So what was the race like for you?
The race was great. I mean, a lot of things just fell into our hand. You know, when I was all bummed out about it after my crappy qualifying run, you know, it started raining, and it started raining for a while on Friday night, which I was like, no way, this is actually enough rain to really help. And I was looking at the forecast the next day, and it was going to be super windy early during the race. And you know, the last few times when I've qualified poorly, it seems like we get held up, and it's really hard to pass people. I mean, the course you guys set up and laid out was killer, and there were a lot of passing zones this year, and it really helped with the weather. I mean, we could actually see. So, I mean, Dondell made it easy. I think he was the first truck we passed. So it was like, oh, there's one truck, and then we just started passing people, making quick work out of the people that were right in front of us. And
yeah, Dondell jumped off the jump.
I know.
We're like, that's not a jump, right?
But didn't he claim he wasn't going to send it, and he just sent it?
I don't remember. I just remember telling everybody, like, that's a roller to check up for the corner, and then Dondell just sends it.
Yeah, I saw his interview right before the race, and he's like, oh, you know, you got to keep the nose clean for a while. And I mean, Dondell, he is a shoe. I mean, he can drive like nobody, and he always qualifies great and runs really good. So, you know, he's a legend in this sport. But to see that, I was bummed for him, but I was happy for the rest of us because that's one less truck to worry about. But yeah, so anyways.
So you get by Dondell, and then what was the rest of your race like?
So we get by Dondell, and then I can't remember what trucks we just started catching trucks. We started next to Olagus, and we were able to. He's always fun to race with, and he races you super clean. Then we just started getting up and past some trucks, and then we passed a few trucks. BJ was broken in the first pit. People, you know, I was talking about this earlier with George. It's like, you know, we started the King of the Hammers. I thought that was a race that we really had a shot at, and you know, I just totally fumbled the ball by getting flat tires. So I mean, that was a big race. I got 3 flats and took a drive shaft out, and somehow we ended up getting 4th still, which was cool, but we were just back in the dust. It was frustrating because that was an easier one. I feel like the field wasn't near as stacked as the Mint. I mean, the Mint had tons of good racers, tons of talent, tons of great equipment, and that one is the one that slipped through our fingers. And so this race, you know, Andrew Myers is like one of my best buddies, and he's been my mentor and driving coach, and he's been teaching me how to race for the last few years, and he's riding with me in that race, and he's like, all right, Eric, no flat tires, just calm down. So I almost felt bad because we passed a few trucks, and then on that back half of the course, we slowed down a little bit because that first lap, we just wanted to make sure no flat tires. And one of the guys that I hit on the way and punted him out of the way, he caught back up to us and was like re-hitting us in the speed zone. I was like, hey, I was just being careful, but I mean, now that we're starting our second lap, we're going to really lay it down, and we did. And you know, we didn't see any of those guys after that, and it was crazy. As soon as we'd start catching up to somebody, they'd be pulled over with a flat tire. You know, I can't remember what lap Rob Mack was broke or changing a flat, but you know, he was coming down off the jacks, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and we're going into the infield. And I'm like, great, we got the GOAT right behind us. That's his. I mean, he's good everywhere, but he's super good in the short course stuff. And
yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, and that's more of my weakness of any of it. And Andrew's like, don't worry about it. Like, nobody, like, trust me, nobody's gonna be able to catch up. And we didn't end up seeing him. But he definitely was in my head. And you know, that was how we got by him. So it made it easy. I mean, drive shafts. I think Householder had a drive shaft. There were so many things, and we were just being careful in the rocks. I mean, we were going as fast as we could everywhere else, but when there were rock beds, we were just kind of picking our way through because I didn't want to do what I just did 6 weeks before that and throw my whole race away.
That's kind of crazy that he says all that, because that's what we were listening to all the other drivers say too, is like, dude, the pace was just too much.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's turned into a sprint race, you know, but in particular, one of the things that I observed with you, it's the same kind of methodology that Rob Mack does, where it's like he stays clean, he stays in position, and it's like he waits until he gets his opportunity and then he pounces. And that's kind of what I saw you do.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't wait too long because they'll be gone. I mean, you gotta go. I mean, these guys, everybody's everybody's on the gas, and if you're not going there, you'll be too far out of it to be able to pounce. And I mean, the 19 and Loft and those guys, the Herps were, Pat Dean was driving a killer race. He's on the gas. I mean, some of the footage I saw him jumping over the start line and almost hitting the scoring loop.
No, that was Tim.
That was Tim?
Tim had just
Oh
got
my
in and it
gosh.
was like full send.
Because I texted Tim, I'm like, hey, who was in the car? He goes, I was. I almost took out your equipment. I said, yeah, dude. I go, how's your back? He's like, I'm good.
Montez told him, he's like, do not send it over that jump. And then what do you know? It never lets off.
Dude, maniacs. It was killer.
Yeah, now I was teasing him, like, let's make a video with you now, right? Let's do some big jumps. He's like, I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, I think what Eric was saying, though, and I've approached the Mint, and actually pretty much every race, it's like, that's a long distance. If you're racing something short like Laughlin, you have no time. But it's like, if it's a 300, 400, 500 mile race, that first 100 miles, everybody's bunched together. And so if you get a flat, you lose a lot more position than you do 100 miles in. It's like after 100 miles, things stretch out a little bit, not much, but I don't want to say you have breathing room, but it's like I really start after you reach the end of the first lap of the Mint, then pour it on, because if I get a flat, I'm going to lose position, but I might be 1 or 2. If you lose it in the first 20 miles of the race, you're going to lose 10 positions, so it's, you want to be fast, but you want to, and efficient, but you don't want to lose touch, but it's, if you got to lay up just a little bit, it's better to not get that flat in the first 100 miles.
100%. I mean, at the Hammers, I think it was mile 26, we got our first flat, and we got passed by it felt like 100 people, but it was definitely 5 or 6. And
Hammers is different terrain, because I feel like Hammers is actually harder to not get flats because the rocks are square edged, but they're buried in like soft sand.
Yep.
We don't really have that at the Mint. We have rocks everywhere.
it's giant rock.
At least they're
field,
visible, though.
Right, you can see them. So it makes it super challenging. I mean, our sponsor obviously is BF Goodrich, and they make the best tires, but even those guys are super nerdy and fascinated with how bad we damage predominantly sidewalls. It's leaning on those rocks.
100%. And I mean, the BF Goodrich tires were awesome. I mean, to be able to get through all that with no flats, the front tires on our truck, I mean, I'm going to use them at the Moore race at the end of this week, at the end of this month on the back, because they're perfect. The rears were decent also. I mean, I couldn't even believe it. So I was stoked on that, especially after the Hammers, after punishing and destroying everything. So
it's crazy how things have evolved, where it was like first the limitations were tires, then it was fuel range, and now it's really fuel range, right? So it's really cool. But yeah, I mean, again, what I love about this is like people are always like, hey, who do you think's gonna win? And I'm like, well, here's some good guys, but really by lap 3, it's turned on its head and they're all out.
Well, one of the things that I like the most is everybody's bringing the newest, fighting weapons and technology. And Eric brought his, favorite piece of equipment that he has in the shop, and he went out there and won. I mean, like all-wheel drive trucks, brand new trucks, and then Eric just goes out there and does the duties.
I do laugh at the whole all-wheel drive conversation, because we've had this for years now, and everybody keeps going, all-wheel drive, all-wheel drive. Yeah, they're fast, but at the end of the day, two-wheel drives continue to keep winning. It's like the all-wheel drives haven't stepped up and said, all right, we're dominating and everybody else sucks now. It's like the two-wheel drive trucks. I mean, what Rob Mack's been able to do, I mean, what you did at the Mint, it's that tried and true two-wheel drive format. It's still winning a lot of races.
I always compare this stuff to MMA, right? And it's like, yeah, cool. You have those big fancy moves that, you catch people in occasionally, and that's a cool way to knock somebody out. But when you break down how people continually win, it's basics. It's the basics, and it's true of off-road.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we were lucky there was only 2 of them, I think, at the Mint. But, I mean, south of the border, the four-wheel drives they're wicked, man. Those guys, there's got to be a dozen of them, and it seems like somebody's always going to squeak through clean now. I think at Hammers I know there was 1 or 2 at the Hammers. I don't know, but it seems like north of the border, the two-wheel drives still have a chance, and we can do it. But they just qualify up front. They're so fast, you can't pass them.
It's interesting too. Like, let's talk about the terrain differences, because you have a lot of graded roads in Baja that you're dealing with. So corner to corner, obviously a four-wheel drive is superior, right? But when you get in that rough, nasty stuff, I still would rather have a two-wheel drive.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I was thinking about it every time we'd go up. I think it's called Thumpers up that hill, and I saw Arciero's videos he was posting, and I saw him out there testing. He's going like 116 up that hill in his Herps truck. I'm like, holy shit! I don't know, man. I mean, we'll try, and I mean, we weren't able to get quite that fast, but luckily, like Dave's truck ran great. It handles super good. It was forgiving. We actually had our fastest run up that hill the last 2 laps, I think, after it was getting burned in and rougher. And I think, dude, it was like super easy to drive, super forgiving, didn't swap out or anything.
To give Arciero's superpowers, driving skills a little bit, I think he could probably go 116 in a UTV or a Volkswagen up that hill.
Yeah,
somehow he could pull it off.
100%. But let's talk about your package. Are you, in your truck, are you running a big block?
Yeah, we're running a Dugan's big block with Albin's, a Weddell transmission, an Albin 6-speed with an air shifter. It's just basics, bigger, heavier, older truck, but it stops really good. It turns really good, and it burns a lot of gas. She's thirsty, really thirsty.
How many times did you guys stop to fuel?
We were able to do it in just 2 stops.
Okay.
So nice. We had clean stops, super quick. Just used a Pressure Pro. Didn't get past in the pits or anything. So our guys really stepped up. It was like our best pits. It was crazy. I mean, everything kind of worked out for us, obviously. I mean, the weather was there, the wind, just some lucky breaks on when people were stopping, changing drive shafts, changing flat tires. We were able to squeak right by them. Our pit stops were flawless. It's really easy to mess up and lose a race with pit stops. Our tires were perfect. I mean, the motor ran great. I mean, we've tried to finish your race for 6. So I think we finished it a long time ago, once way back there when we first got our truck. But last year, last lap, 60 to go, broken axle going downhill. The year before that, it was a rear gear. The year before that, it was a motor. The year before that, it was we left the lug nuts loose and broke the studs off. The year before that, we scattered another motor. So I mean, half the time I break up in no man's land. So I've got to sit up there.
You're spending the night.
12 hours. Dude, we got pulled out after one of them. It was 32 degrees. We're like looking at the oil temp because there's nothing else to do up there. It's dropping. It's like 40 degrees. And then once we get into the truck to drag it out of there, it was 32 degrees. We didn't bring anything like idiots. We didn't bring snacks or lighter or anything to make a fire, blankets or jackets.
You're welcome. We provided you a nice experience in nature, right?
Yeah. So every time we go up or down that hill, in no man's land, I'm like, oh, dude, let's just get through this. Let's get through this. And we could always tell because we were up there so long. I'm like, all right, who's fast? Because you can hear him coming for 3 miles going up that hill.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, who's on the gas? Who's aggressive towards later in the race? And it always surprised me how slow some of the guys would be going over the years. Like the leaders wouldn't even be like hammering the thing all the way down and driving into the corner and driving out of the corner and racing, and that's probably why they win the race. But I was like, hey, we're not going to be that guy no matter what. If somebody's going to be broken, they're going to know that we're not giving up because we're here to race. We're not here to pre-run. We're going to drive it as fast as we can the whole time. So it was pretty funny. But I'm like, please don't break up here.
One of the old timers that used to race with the Macmillans, who's not with us anymore, Ron Stacy, he taught me about the kit. And the kit is like all the stuff that you're going to need if you break down. And it's, it's like a DOP kit, right? But the main thing was a lighter, right? So you could start a little fire and stay warm. And I carry that every time I go racing. Most times I carry it when I'm just cruising around.
Yeah, it's funny though you mentioned that because like my dad growing up, it was back in the old Class 8 days, the 70s and 80s. They used to have literally a water cooler in the truck. It was like a water bucket, and he used to always, when I was a kid, I remember he'd put a 6-pack of beer in the bottom of the water cooler. They put the lid on and everything else. I was like, "What's that for?" He goes, "Have you ever spent the night in Baja?" He's like, "You'll be happy you have a 6-pack of beer."
I can top that.
Still this day, we'll stuff like a little flask or a couple cans of beer in our race car just so if I ever break down, like, we got something at least.
Something to keep you warm, right?
I was pre-running with Troy Herbst, and the pre-runner died. I don't know what happened, and he goes, "I got it." And he hops on the back of the pre-runner, and there's those containers that they always have with all the spares and everything. He starts pulling stuff out, and I'm like, okay, if this guy can fix this truck, I'm gonna be really impressed because I'm pretty sure it's the transmission. So I'm sitting there, and he goes, "Okay, I got it." and he holds up a bottle of Crown. And we sat there and we just got shit-faced, and a helicopter came and picked us up. And we left. And I was like, I love you guys. This is how you do it. I'm going to hang with you guys forever.
That is the way to do it, in style.
No need to load your truck up with axles or spare tires anymore.
Nope.
Bring booze.
Nope. Just call the heli. We got a bottle of Crown. We'll drink that while the heli's getting here. It was perfect.
Dude, that's off-road.
Yeah, no, I love it.
So you're in the Triple Crown point standings. You got California 300 left. Obviously, that's your backyard. You going out there doing a little bit of homework between now and then?
I'm excited for that race. I'm super excited for it. I'm definitely going to be out there. We did the little more race the weekend before the Mint. So that was a ton of fun. I was out over by /X. Then we've got, there's another race out there that I'll be pre-running. So hopefully, I'm sure some of the stuff will overlap. I mean, there's only so many roads out there that you can use. But yeah, no, we're pumped. Adam's probably not stoked, but after I saw the way the points are working, I was like, that's pretty cool, how the Mint counted for time and a half for the points, and then the California is double points. So I think that's really cool because that opens it up to anybody in the top 6 or 8 probably. I didn't do the math, but
well, we wanted to keep it competitive, and then also like one thing that kind of bothered me is like if you do all these races all year and you don't podium, I don't think you should win points. I think you should have to at least podium to win points. So it's going to be 100%. Interesting.
Well, and you don't just run away with it. It gives everybody a chance.
Yeah. The other thing is, you're talking about the course. So the course is the more like the old fireworks course this year. It's a lot more fast stuff and some rally roads. So we're going to try and give everybody a ride around that, a low speed ride. And we're just waiting for permission from the BLM.
Perfect.
That way everybody can get a look at the course and start talking about it. Because, last year was really tight and technical. And it was a difficult course, and we had to do that to essentially prove ourselves to this new BLM office and show them how we operate, and we did, and we knocked it out of the park because it's what we do, right? So it was good.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that last year's event was awesome. I mean, you guys obviously put on a first class deal like you always do. All the vendors were there. There were tons of people there, and yeah, the course was technical and it scared some guys off, and it was real windy and the whole deal, but I remember before the race, people were thinking that a UTV was going to overhaul the race because of the 4-wheel drive, because it was going to be able to get through all the tight, nimbly, areas. And I couldn't believe it. After the limited race, we started the unlimited race, and it was so much faster because it was all burned. It was burned in, and normally that slows everything down. The whoops get so huge in the corners, you got to slow down so you don't blow out of the corners and be careful. But I mean, these berms were 3 feet tall. You were able to just rail it around the corners. The bushes were all knocked out of the way. I mean, it was a way, way faster pace than anybody anticipated. And I'm pretty sure truck overall the thing by a lot, I think.
Yeah, it was a good gap.
Yeah, more than anybody expected. And it just, I thought it was kudos. Like, hey, the course wasn't as technical as everybody thought. Once it got burned in, I mean, you were able to go over those hilltops way faster than anybody was expecting.
Somebody showed up, didn't they, with a truck and then backed out because they were like, "Oh, it's too much of a UTV course. I don't want to." I'm like, "You came out to race, you didn't race because you didn't like the course."
Yeah, we had a couple of people do that, but it's funny because one of the things that we're going through this evolution where, we've had a lot of people grow up racing for the last 2 decades with Best in the Desert, and their courses, a lot of them are graded roads, and that is a style. Right, and Casey did that on purpose because he wanted a high finish rate, and especially in the beginning, those courses were chosen because he was appealing to the limited racers. Right, he didn't have the trophy trucks and the all the big guys, but he didn't evolve that. And we saw with UTVs, we're like, hey, these machines are really capable, and we need to get back to old school off-road racing that is hard. That's what makes this racing so special is like, I look at other forms of racing and I have respect for them, but I'm like, it's not hard enough, man. You need to get to that finish line and you need to feel like your ass got kicked, like you accomplished something. Otherwise, we didn't do our job. We made it too easy.
Yeah.
Dude, have you ever seen the finish line of the Men 400? People can barely get out of their cars.
Oh, dude, I know.
awesome.
I remember seeing you get out of the truck and you were just like,
Oh, I was
done.
gassed.
You were
I
done.
couldn't even find where to park. I was like so exhausted. I was thinking about the couple miles before as we're coming in because I didn't want to jinx it and think, oh man, we're gonna win this thing and this is sewn up until we actually got there. And then I'm like, oh man, I gotta think about what I'm gonna say. I gotta climb on the roof of this thing. I hope I don't fall off. I was like, oh man, I couldn't even think. I was exhausted. I think it was only 6 hours and 46 minutes or something like that. It was. I think you taxed all the racers very well. I mean, everybody was smoked after that thing.
Well, how good did that beer and burger taste?
Nothing better. Nothing better.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to the 300.
Dude,
Awesome.
Yeah. And congrats on your win, man.
Yeah,
Thank you.
congrats,
Thanks,
buddy.
guys.
Racing against your dad is something that 90% of the racers in the world will never get.
I've accomplished everything I wanted to do, and now he's just like taking the reins. I want to be remembered for being a huge part of short course, not just racing, keeping it alive, helping it grow. If it comes down to the last weekend and I'm in it, the boys better watch out.
All right, our next guest is Kieran Niran. He just won San Felipe, and he's, for lack of a better term, nobody, right? Like, It's pretty cool, right? Like, I was like, we need a bike guy, and I'm like, who are we going to get? And I look, who won San Felipe? And I'm like, well, who's this guy? What was that like, man?
Yeah, man. In the off-road world, I definitely feel like I am kind of a nobody. I haven't been in the off-road industry or racing off-road for very long, or as rider of record at least. I've done 2 years down in Baja now, racing the full season, just with different teams and under different riders. So this year, being rider of record was pretty cool and a pretty cool opportunity. And it was. Yeah, like you said, it nobody knows who I am in the motocross and supercross world. That was the industry I grew up in and raced professionally and so on. So it's a big transition for me, but it's been a fun learning curve and so on.
Well, but San Felipe is one of those races as a bike guy. This is brutal.
Yeah, as a bike guy, man, San Felipe is definitely one of the hardest races. Last year, I kind of hit the deck at San Felipe. So that was a learning curve for me. I had a very, very long talk on the phone with Colton Udall going into the race, and he kind of told me, he's like, hey, man, your speed is there, your talent is there, but you cannot hit the deck. San Felipe, 90% of the time the people win is from not hitting the deck. So that was the mentality my teammate and I took going into the race. Tucker Hopkins, he rode incredible, and we just went in and went with one mindset, and that was like, hey, let's just get the bike to the finish line, don't hit the deck, and let everybody kind of fall off as we ride to the finish.
How much time beforehand did you spend pre-running? Because I feel like especially San Felipe, and especially on a bike, line choice has got to be key.
Yeah, so this race was very last minute for us. We actually signed up for the race on the last day registration was open. And we actually didn't even decide to go race it until the last day of registration. So it was super last minute. I actually hadn't rode since New Year's. So I kind of went into it like unprepared and so on. But, luckily we had a program to build off of from last year. So we knew our race bike was solid and everything. So we just went for it. But pre-running, we went down on Monday before the race. And I originally pre-ran what wasn't supposed to be my section. Tucker was actually going to start the race and ride the first 130 miles, and I was going to finish and bring it in. So we rode the first 130 Monday, and then I spoke with Colton Udall that night, and he kind of changed up the whole game plan on us. He's like, you're rider of record. You're kind of the ace, he's like, you need to be starting this race. And he's like, you've led races now down in score, so you've matured, you've learned, you're hopefully not going to make the same mistake you made last year. So he kind of changed up the game plan, and I think I got about 2 days under my belt pre-running and not riding and not being in shape for not riding for so long, I kind of looked at my teammate. I'm like, man, dude, my body is sore. I need to take a day off. So I took a day off, which I was supposed to pre-run full section again. Took a day off, and then next day went out to go pre-running, and I ended up getting stung by a bee, and I'm pretty allergic to bees, so that cut my day short.
Oh,
so
man.
now I'm like, shit, I've only got 2 days of pre-running under my belt. We're a day away from the race, so went and pre-ran Friday, the full section all the way through, and I didn't really have a whole lot of lines. Like, normally I'm really good, try to get 6-7 times of pre-running my entire section under my belt, but this was the most unprepared I've ever been going into one of the score races, and it kind of worked out. I just, I did what Colin Udall had told me, and he's like, dude, just go pound race course. Like, San Felipe, you try to find lines. I used to race Kurt Caselli, Ivan Ramirez, some of the greats, And he goes, those guys would always try to get savvy and try to find lines, and then you end up missing VCPs and all the above, And sometimes for being on a bike, you don't have the GPS that the trucks do and so on. So it's like, yeah, you just got to stick with your instincts and just pound the whoops and pound race course.
Dude, that's wild, man. And then especially coming from motocross and riding tracks and stuff, it's such a different way of thinking. Like, I don't know how, the instant gratification thing, you throw that out the window.
Yeah, I mean, coming from racing moto, you learn a lot about technique and, being really precise on a bike, and off-road, I feel like you kind of got to, forget all of that.
Yeah.
It's like, you still got to have good technique, good posture and all that, for sure.
But it's more about flow and consistency,
Yeah, it's flow, consistency. It's like maintaining a steady pace, keeping the bike moving and not like gunning it, blowing turns or whatever, whereas moto, it's like you're risking it all from turn to turn, where, racing down south or down in Mexico or best in the desert, it's like you got to really think ahead and like think about what's going to happen in the next 50 miles, not in the next 5 miles, like, okay, what is coming up? Where am I going to conserve my energy, and where am I going to relieve pressure off my back, from pounding whoops and so on. So,
well, speaking of what's coming up, did you guys have any sketchy moments?
I didn't have any sketchy moments on race. Oh, actually, no, I take that back. At race mile 65 for the bikes, there were some spectators that built a stupid jump in the middle of the road.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so luckily, I saw all the crew, and my dad, being in the off-road industry, is like, hey, you see people, you ride at 60%, So I kind of checked up, was just really cautious and looking ahead, and I luckily avoided it. But as soon as I got off the bike, called Weatherman. I'm like, hey, let people know there's a big old kicker at race mile 65 that could end someone's day real quick.
Dude.
It's such a crazy aspect of racing in Baja is the booby traps, right? And the random jumps. I've seen it down there, and it's been so gnarly. Guys building jumps over days that are just sketchy.
Yeah, I mean, I luckily haven't had too many gnarly encounters, knock on wood. But there's just so many random aspects of racing down in Mexico. Like you said, the booby traps, and then, pre-running, I feel like people aren't aware that there's other people in the course at times. I went head on with almost 5 different razors on Friday before the race. Just people looking for lines, doing what we're all doing, but doing it in an unsafe manner and so on. So I think as a community, everybody needs to be a little bit more cautious of that, So, but yeah, there's just
100%.
So many unknown aspects racing down there, especially.
Well, and I think, you being a bike guy, because I race UTVs, race trophy trucks, but I spend a lot of time out in the desert on bikes. It's like, you get in a head-on collision in a truck, it sucks, or a UTV, but, you get in a head-on collision with a bike, you're pretty much done. And it's kind of one of those where it's like, I think people lose perspective of that. You know what I mean? It's dire consequences when you go head-on with a bike,
Oh, that's what makes bike racing so rad, but so gnarly. It's like, I was talking about this the other day with a friend of mine who's big motorsports enthusiast and racer, and he's like, well, what's the gnarliest thing on the planet, in terms of racing? And he's like, Isle of Man, number 1, number 2, racing a bike in Baja. I mean, that's, you want to talk about, risk versus reward. those are the two most badass things you can do point blank. You know what I mean? Like, everybody talks about all the different stuff, but, you know, me for one, like, I'm scared of that. That's why I'm in a cage, man. Like, my talent level doesn't match, you know, what I'm trying to do. So if I make a mistake in a 4-wheel drive vehicle, it's no big deal. I rip a corner off, you know, or roll or whatever, endo, whatever, right? But on a bike, the consequences could be your life, really.
So one of the things that I was going to ask is, like, to help with that stuff, like, do you guys use stabilizers on the steering stem, and, like, what other stuff do you do, like, even protection for your body?
Yeah, man. I'm a victim of being a little unprepared when it comes to, like, protection of my body and so on. I definitely wear kind of the bare minimum, and I think that's the motto in me. You know, I get a lot of crap from that from dudes like Colton Udall, or, you know, these dudes that are bad dudes in racing off-road. And like, I wear the smallest chest protector you could possibly wear, and, you know, my camel pack's pretty small and so on. I definitely don't go out there unprepared at all. You know, I've been stuck in some situations down in Mexico that luckily I had the things that I had, you know. Pre-running at 2 o'clock in the morning, I snapped a chain guide off a swing arm my first time ever down in Mexico, and was stuck out there for about 7 hours.
Ugh.
My light ran out, helmet light ran out, my phone was dead. I didn't have a sat phone or anything, so I had to make a fire, drain some fuel out of the tank and make a fire, luckily. But my dad, you know, he's like, "Oh, you got to take a lighter. You trust me, you'll need it."
There you go, Matt.
Well, it's funny because, like, I've had similar experiences, but in 4-wheel, and then, you know, I come back and I'm telling everybody the story, and you know, the old timers look at me and they go, "Yeah, but did you die?" Like, no.
Well, so we're talking about, like, what people carry, like, in the 4-wheel vehicles, but it's way more difficult for you. Like, I know I didn't ever do a race in Baja, but, like, going adventure riding and stuff, and we wear the big vest, and you got, you know, all your tools and your first aid kit and all that stuff. How do you guys do it?
My program and, like, the way we do it now has definitely transpired over the past couple of years of learning, you know?
Yeah.
When we first started, or when I first started, it was bare minimum, just bare bones, you know? We ran it. Like, I didn't have a stabilizer my first time down pre-running, or anything like that, you know?
Yep.
But now all our bikes are dialed in, you know, very prepared. But, like, as far as equipment goes on us, you know, like, we share a fanny pack on race day. We have the Spica, the tracking device that we have to switch from rider to rider, you know, or whoever's on the bike. And you're not actually allowed to put the device on the bike. So we switch fanny packs rider to rider. And with that being said, you know, like, our fanny pack, we have, like, and we've done a lot of research and, well, not research, but a lot of development and, like, making sure we have the right tools. Like, pretty much I have enough tools in my fanny pack to strip that bike down to a bare frame.
Dude, that's insane, right? Like, and that's what I was asking that question, was because that turns into mindset and it turns into confidence, right? Just by having that little package that, you know, you got a stabilizer now. Now you got tools. You're like, all right, I can go a little bit different. I can take these different lines. I can push a little harder past this dude.
Yeah, it's definitely a confidence boost, you know, like, knowing that. And I think with the battle with Baja, and you're finding now with a lot of the younger kids like myself that are coming in, is they think it's all fine and dandy just to go race their dirt bike, but there's a lot of things to learn, you know. And luckily, like, I've had a lot of great mentors. My teammate Forrest Minchinton, you know, Colton Udall, Derek Alsabauser, Chris Gill, like, a bunch of guys that I've raced with have taught me a lot, you know, and given me a lot of experience. My dad in particular, you know, and yeah, it's been great, and luckily I have had that guidance to be prepared for those situations. And, you know, I feel like a lot of guys now, too, when they go ride, like, they don't even know how to work on their bikes, half of the guys that ride motorcycles nowadays. And, like, I build our race bike personally, and, you know, everybody on our team takes care of building and prepping their pre-runner and so on. So, you know, we're all very capable of using tools and, like, know what goes wrong with the bike and so on.
What bike are you riding right now?
So we're racing a Husqvarna FE 450, which was pretty cool. We were the first Husqvarna since 1984 to win down in Baja.
Dude,
that's huge. That's huge.
That's so massive.
And I think it's really cool, again, you just being an independent guy and breaking that curse, because it's been a curse, right?
Yeah, it has, man. I mean, obviously, Husqvarna is a very heritage, like, built brand, you know? You had dudes like Malcolm Smith that raced it, you know, Larry Rossler, Dan Smith, Dan Ashcraft. Like, those were the last two dudes that actually won on a Husky in 1984. And, like, it's cool to, like, know that we're part of that heritage, you know?
Yeah, especially with the ups and downs that the brands had. Dude, the guys in Marietta were probably so hyped for you.
Yeah, you know, it was pretty cool, like, to have, like, Sel Naranya, who's, like, head dude at KTM. I actually work at KTM in Husqvarna at the factory in Marietta. So, you know, like, it was cool to get, like, congratulation hugs and, you know, like, congratulations from dudes like that are, like, been with the brand for so long, too, you know?
Well, especially because you're beating teams, right?
Yep.
You're beating factory teams from Honda and so on. So, I mean, that, you know, again, mad respect to you. You know, like, you came down and you're the independent guy, and you spanked a lot of guys that have more support than you and more years than you. So again, it's one of the reasons why I love this sport.
You guys have any good battles?
Yeah, we've had some good battles. Like, even this race, man, like, I was battling with the 8X bike for some time, and then 33X.
The 8X wasn't Connor Eddy, was it?
Yeah, it was Connor Eddy. So I was
Yeah.
actually battling with Connor Eddy for quite some time. It was cool. Like, I've never had, like, a bar-to-bar battle really down in Mexico, but, like,
He was texting me on the way back about that battle. He said it was super fun.
it was, man. It was super cool. Like, I look over, I see his dust trail, you know, like, doing the same speed, but just on a different line next to me, and I feel really bad for him. You know, they had bike malfunction,
Yeah.
but that's part of Baja racing, you know?
Dude, it's so cool that you guys get to do that and share the stories when you get back, too.
Yeah.
So here's a question. You know, obviously, you know, you kind of said last minute you decided to go down to San Felipe. The good and the bad of it is you're now the points leaders. So what's the rest of your look like? You going to go do the 500? I mean, I almost feel like at this point you got to at least go to the 500, right?
So, you know, we kind of ended last year. We were third in the championship. We had quite a bit of bad luck, and you know, it was a learning curve for us. We were building a program from the ground up, you know. And for us, you know, this is just fun. Everybody on my team's a blue-collar guy. We all got to go to work on Monday, you know. My teammate Tucker Hopkins, he's a full-time lifeguard at Venice Beach. Forrest, he's a full-time, owns a film production company, works at Deus Ex Machina. And then Nick LaPaglia, my other rider, he runs a gravel company. You know, they're family business, a multiple-generation gravel company. And so we all got to go to work on Monday. I'm working on bikes and wrenching on bikes at Husqvarna and so on. So
He forgot one thing, though. Everybody's out there winning races.
Yeah, right.
yeah, no, it's pretty cool. But yeah, man.
I mean, that's what this culture is built on, is, you know, blue collar people, you know, going and having fun on the weekends. So it's really cool to see it. But, you know, one of the things I want to talk about with you is this connection, you know, between surfing and off-road, you know, and nobody does a better job of kind of illustrating that than Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, man. You know, for me, I'm from Huntington Beach, so I grew up surfing. And to be quite frank with you, like, my goal and, like, dream in life was to be a pro surfer. I didn't want to be a motorcycle racer or anything like that. It was, you know, family going to the desert, and it was just for fun. My dad being in the racing industry and having a big background in it, obviously, like, we naturally guided ourselves that way and got into the racing, and I fell in love with it as well. I can't say I didn't fall in love with it, but yeah, so it was, you know, surfing and all that's just kind of been my lifestyle, you know. I grew up in Huntington Beach and being at the beach and so on, so to work with a company like Deus Ex Machina and, like, have that connection where it's all about this culture essentially, you know. And I think Baja is, like, a cool part of that as well, you know. It's very similar to the culture of being a surfer, you know. You're riding or driving down the coast, you know, in Mexico, and it's very run and gun, you know, and there's a lot of heritage behind score racing and Baja racing, and that's how Deus Ex Machina is as well, you know. A lot of heritage and a lot of it's just culturally diverse, and I think that's, like, the off-road industry is the same way, you know. Like, you meet someone that's in the off-road industry, they're not your average dude.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I grew up surfing, and, you know, I started going to Baja when I was 12, and it was for surf trips, right? And then going to spectate races. But, you know, the funny thing about it is that, you know, if you surf, you know that you got to off-road to get to the best spots. And so then you choose your vehicles accordingly, right? And then like now it's this whole overland thing is developed, and I'm like, yo, we've been doing that. We've been doing it in piece of shit VW vans, and then we get a Tacoma, and we're like, oh, this thing will take a lot, right? And so on and so forth. So, I just, again, I'm stoked at, like, I saw you guys go through tech and contingency. I saw the social media photos, and you guys, you won the style points, right?
Yep.
Because everybody's wearing the modern moto stuff, which is pretty jockey, and it's a style. It's just all looks the same, right? And you guys had these rad, like, white jackets, and why'd you guys choose to do that? I mean, it's very different than what everybody's doing now.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think that's the cool thing about like us as riders, like we are different than your average motocross rider or, bike rider. And the whole reason, like, we love showing up to tech just looking completely abnormal, like out of style, but that's who we are. It's like we're not faking it or like trying to fake it.
Style.
That's our style, and like we rolled up to tech, and it's funny because we're wearing white pants, white button-up shirts, white corduroy hats, and we're just looking completely different than everyone else, like it is one of our sponsors, luckily, but you typically see someone with, a list of sponsors on their left-hand side of their shirt and a Monster hat on or whatever rolling through tech. But yeah, we try to be different, like that's one of the compliments we've gotten a lot being down there racing the past like year and a half is, our bike is like, everybody's like, dude, your guys' bike always looks so gorgeous. And, for me, I'm the bike builder. I build a race bike, and it's like an art for me, like I get to get hands-on with this bike, and like me and my dad get crazy with 3D printing, making custom one-off parts, skid plates, lights and, cable guides or whatever it may be. Like our Stella mounting and everything like is super clean. Like I hate the typical off-road look. This is the moto side of me too. Like the motocross racer coming out is like, I hate all the bulky GPS and everything on the handlebars. So I always want stuff clean and sleek, Well,
it's dorky looking, and I think a lot of that style actually came from Europe, right? It was the European riders who had a way of doing stuff, racing in Dakar. And it's funny because there's been this like cultural exchange between American and Baja racing and Dakar, which is hilarious because the guy who founded Dakar actually came and slept on Sal Fish's floor and saw everything that Sal was doing with the Baja 1000, and then went back and started Paris to Dakar. That's a true story that Sal actually told me. So yeah, they kind of have that Euro kind of dorky, awkward style, and then for whatever reason we've just adapted that, and we're like, yeah, this is it. And it's like, well, I go back to my heritage in surf, skate, and snow, and I'm like, we made stuff cool. It's like the whole point of it was style. It was like, were we ever going to make a better shoe than Nike? No, but it's cooler. Yeah. DCs were cooler shoes than Nike was, right?
Oh, for sure.
So it's kind of the same thing, and I'm glad to see a brand like Deuce coming over and supporting you guys and dipping their toe in off-road. It's cool.
Well, it's rad because like Kieran's going against the grain, but the devil's in the details, right? That's why you get so many compliments. I love that, dude, that you're pushing it like that. Does that mean that you're going to come out to the Mid 400 and race too?
I'm thinking about it. I've been I saw Dalton Shirey raced it this year and won the moto section. I told him, I'm like, hey man, if you need another rider for next year, let me know. Nice. But I think I might just need to come out and Ironman it.
That'd be awesome. I mean, here's the thing, for all the bike guys, like straight up, we love you guys. I think that we've failed in the past 30 years with the bikes, and I grew up in the era of Danny Hammel, and like, he was one of the most, if not the most important guy at the race. And then for some reason that changed. And now, I'll be blunt, like I feel like it's, especially in Baja, I feel it's like this weird abusive relationship with the bike guys. It's like, hey, hurry up and get your shit done so we can, put a truck on podium. And I got in off-road because of a bike. Actually, it's a hilarious story because like I was 13, and the guy down the street in El Cajon that built all the bikes, walked me into his backyard and was like, hey, here's the bike you should buy. And it was a Hodaka and a Combat Wombat, right? And I'm like, I don't want that. I want this, this Honda. And I wish I would have bought that bike and kept it, because it's probably worth a fortune now. But like, we're broke, I had to save up whatever money I could make, mowing lawns and delivering newspapers, and, give it to this guy, and whatever you could give him, he would give you accordingly, a bike accordingly. And that's how I got started in off-road. And that's how a lot of people get started off-road. Not everybody can go out and plop down the money for a UTV or, whatever it is. So I think it's really important that we support that, that part of our culture, and make sure that it always stays important, and, so I can tell you with our races going forward, like California 300, we're just about to announce that bikes will be racing with us this year. We've been talking to the District 37 guys and making sure that they all know that they're invited to come race. But
have you ridden up there?
Yeah, Barstow, right?
Yeah.
I've ridden out there. We do a lot of our suspension testing, obviously, at Barstow, Maine, as of everyone else does, But
I was gonna say, if you need a partner for the California 300, you pick Connor, dude. You're dialed.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, Barstow. Yeah, Connor Eddy is a Barstow boy, so he's probably got that place wired.
Dude, wired.
Yeah, so, we welcome all the bike racers to come race with us. We're going to, keep pushing it and try and build something that exposes bike racing to a new audience. Because I think, I actually started in the bike industry in 92 at Seat Racing and became the art director there and designed a bunch of the bike graphics. And what I learned then, and I still think the same thing now, is that the bike industry's been doing the same thing for so long. Supercross, motocross, whatever, and the big six, and it's not growing the market. And we think that by pairing bikes back with, four-wheel vehicles and putting them on a bigger scale, we can expand it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's what we're here to do.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's like what kind of our program and team's all about, like before kind of last year, you didn't really hear much about the bikes. You didn't know who won at the Baja 1000 or really anything, right? And, our whole kind of goal and mission with our program is like creating content and giving people a media outlook almost through our team and through our experiences racing down there, Like if you look at our Instagrams or our YouTube channels or whatever, we're trying to do daily vlogs, give people a little insight on it. And, like we're four average dudes just going out and having fun. Like we're doing this as a hobby. Like I said, we all have to go to work on Monday, and I think it's relatable to the average person and so on. And like you said, man, it's like the grassroots of off-road. Like bikes is how pretty much all of us, I imagine, got into the off-road world, right? Because it's the cheapest, it's the easiest way to get in it, but I at some point like also think it's the gnarliest. Like it's the most
totally
the easiest to get broke off and so on. But
how cool would it be to follow that story going into the Mint 400 next year? That would be super, super cool.
Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey man, thanks for coming down, and keep up the good work, and good luck at what's the next will be the 400, right?
Well, the 500 is coming up, and you will see us there. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah.
Right on.
All right, I like it.
Awesome.
But yeah, thank you for having me.
Congrats, dude.
Thank you.
All right, Chase. Number 23. It's 2023. This championship's yours. Let's show these guys what's up.
Easy, boys. It's not over yet. Big dog still gotta eat. Whatever you say, big dog. Seriously? These fools think I'm fried?
They know the deal.
All right, well, our next guest is kind of the guy I feel like doesn't get any respect, like almost like the Rodney Dangerfield of off-road, Adam Householder, right?
We try, I just kind of like to show up and race, and that's what we enjoy doing.
Well, Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jimmy.
No, I was just gonna say before we lead out, I wanna thank your family because your trucks are the easiest ones to spot anywhere. It makes calling a live stream so damn easy because it's like householders. Oh, there we go. We just have to decide if it's you or your dad.
Yeah, that's what everyone says. And how that color comes up is. My favorite color is blue, and orange is my father. So that's how it kind of came about. He was always a Dayglow orange, so that's why that's
out.
always there.
No, I love it. I still remember that shot that our director of photography, Vinny, got at Vegas Reno of you hitting that ditch and wheeling out of that.
Yep, popular shot.
Yeah, I still use that shot to sell off-road. I'm like, you want to come see this? They're like, yeah. So, no, that's
flinging dirt everywhere.
No, I think you broke that race, but I don't remember.
It doesn't matter. If you can't win it, you got to look good trying.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely have that reputation. But now you've moved to a different platform. Do you think that, racing the Herps platform has made a big difference in your success?
Oh, without a doubt. Every year, these trucks advance so fast, and you're trying to keep on top of it with motors, electronics, trucks, handling, brakes. The old truck we had, the BMS truck, great learning truck. We won some races with it. When we took our time off, we kind of came back in with it, and we knew we were behind the 8 ball. So we sat down one night and it's like, all right, it's time to advance. What truck do we pick? And having the Herps locally and seeing what they do and looking at their trucks, I think it was a great platform to pick from.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Herps program. They're friends of mine, and obviously Mike Smith is one of the OG builders, and so he knows what works. But their whole crew's rad, and their facility's impressive. And then, on the top level, the Herps, they're willing to continue to invest money into it, which is really cool. It's not just for their racing; they're giving that knowledge to everybody else.
Oh, without a doubt, we all kind of share. Running San Felipe, they help pit us. We come down with, I don't have a big enough team, and they do, and the support that comes along with it, that's what allows us to do some of these races, especially fielding 2 trucks of our own. It makes nice getting parts. When you need parts, there's always something. You're not waiting. If you need spare arms, they have arms. Whatever you need, they have it.
Well, and I think, too, like when you're on a platform like the Herps platform, not only them, but there's an army of trucks that are similar running the same type part. So, if they don't have it, there's somebody else in the field that's probably got the part.
Oh, there's all this, axles, radiators, you name it. They're all pretty much identical besides maybe a few little customs that we've all, modified our trucks a little bit, but nothing but all drivetrain, spindles, hubs, everything is the same.
The statement, teamwork makes a dream work. I saw that because I was able to spend a little bit of time with them down in San Felipe, and it's a massive team effort, first of all. But second, even though it's big, it's not confusing. Everybody's open, everybody's sharing, everybody's wanting each other to do better. It's a really cool gig.
Yeah, they've got a good vibe. My favorite thing to do with them is to go drinking with them afterwards, right?
Yep.
I was at Hammers with them, and we had a good time. That was a good time.
And that's the thing. They love to have fun. This is what they
Absolutely.
do. They enjoy racing. They love having fun with family and friends, and that's what they do.
Some of the crew guys lit off 6-inch mortars on the beach. These things were like fireworks for July.
They're massive.
Awesome.
That's what you do in San Felipe. We can't do that up here. So you drive on the beach.
You'd be arrested for terrorism here.
Oh, you would. No. If you saw the thing, you're like, wow.
Yeah.
But so, hey, props. Obviously you're leading the points championship, but also, you came out this year and you're really nailing it. So. What do you think has changed that you're...
I don't know. It's very hard. You go through years and you try and you try and you try, and there's always something stupid that would take us out, and not by mechanical fault, my fault. Something, I'm hoping this year's just a good year, and that's what we're shooting for. And, we did a bunch of testing and making sure... we're trying to have fun, and we're having fun as we keep the vibe going. Hopefully the year continues out that way.
From an outside looking in, it does seem like you're much more relaxed as a driver. Like you're not trying to push super hard. You're still fast, but that's just, does it feel that way to you, or?
Yeah, it does. Again, if you're not having fun, and you're struggling, it makes it difficult. And last year was kind of that for me. This year, man, the trophy truck pace is so fast. I'm just trying to have fun and enjoy it and just kind of take it in strides. And we're doing well. And winning King of the Hammers is at the beginning of the season, dude, that's a big morale booster. If you can start off with that, that carries on, and finishing third at the Mint, we're just carrying it on. So hopefully we can keep that going all year long.
Yeah. Speaking of the Mint, like, I remember just thinking, like, when we were doing the live commentating, like, dude, he's coming. Like, and then, we talked to Hardin a couple weeks ago, and he was scared. Like, he was ready for you. Like, he was ready for the battle. Did it feel like you were inching up enough to be able to get him?
As we know, anything can happen at the Mint. The last lap, I mean, you watch it. You can be in one spot and people fall off. So even though I dinged a drive shaft, had to change it on course. Luckily, there was other guys, Arciero and James Dean out there, and they helped me change it real quick. But once we got going again, I was running like we were still going to win it, and because you don't know how many people fell off. We gave it our all, and to finish third by 30 seconds or whatever it was, I mean, pretty close. I'm super happy with it.
Yeah, it's solid. I mean, it's very respectable, especially at the Mint. For you, talk a little bit about your racing history, because you didn't show up and jump in a trophy truck.
No, I kind of grew up, as a kid going to the sand dunes with my family. Loved Glamis, still do. If I'm not racing, I'm always in the sand playing. Then from there, age 14, I grew up racing micros and mini sprints in Northern California and traveling all over. So we were racing 60, 70 times a year. Then kind of took a break from that and always still loved off-road. And one day I took my high school truck and I was in my dad's shop and tore it apart. My dad goes, how you getting to work? How you getting to school the next day? And I didn't think about that. And built a pre-runner, met new friends, got into desert racing. You should try this, with friends, and ended, my first race was the MDR night race, and was only planning on doing one or two races. My sprint car career was still kind of, still planning on doing that. And I don't know, caught the bug. My dad did it in the 70s and he caught the bug again. And this is where we are now.
One of the things that I think is interesting about that story is you see a lot of people, switching back and forth between circle track stuff and off-road and circle track and dirt. But it's crazy to see that he went the opposite way.
Well, so did Lofton.
Yeah,
right?
but like, to me, those are always like mind-blowing.
Arciero did. We forget Ryan did.
Yeah.
But those are always mind-blowing to me because it's such a different style.
It is. What's different, from the two deals, racing sprint cars, if you have a bad night, go get them Saturday night. If you have a bad desert race, you're waiting months. And that's what the struggle is. You try to fight for those months, of making sure that issue doesn't happen again, and you prepare yourself. And, when we were in our top of, doing this, we were racing 18 desert races a year between Best in Desert and Score, and my dad racing Class 1 car of Best in Desert and Snore. But what happened is it burned us out. You can't turn these trucks around that fast. And so we took a little bit of a break and kind of came back in 2015. And
at that point, you were doing all your own prep, right?
And we still are. But I mean, it just took a toll. It late nights and when things start going wrong, why are things going wrong? You can't get parts fast enough, and
and you're still running a business.
Yes.
You're working,
and so when we came back in, we just kind of like, all right, we're gonna set to a schedule, and we did that, and we've been having fun ever since. My dad's racing a 6100 truck, loving it. He won a championship in 2018. And I'm trying to get a trophy truck. That's a goal. I want a number one plate because it's definitely hard to come by. Not very many people get them.
100%. Well, we've got some special awards that we're making for the Triple Crown this year, so I think you're gonna be pretty stoked on those.
And that's my goal. That's what I'm shooting for. We're preparing and making sure we ended up strong.
Well, at least we didn't have an MMA fight in the waiting room between Hardin and Householder, right? Because we're gonna see it on the track.
Yep, the last race will be fun between the both of us. We both know Barstow really well, and we'll see what you guys lay out for us and see how it ends up.
Yeah, it's gonna be badass. We'll talk a little bit about too, because I've known you for a long time, and you and your dad are different people, but off-road racing gives you something common that you do together. Talk about that relationship with your dad.
Yeah, we both have a passion for it. I run our race program, Besides, from our race program of Household and Motorsports, I run our 3 guys that work there. And then on the side of that, I run my own business out of there, which prep and maintain sand cars, off-road cars, because that's what I enjoy doing also. I love working on the stuff. But yes, it's what we do together, spend time going to races. And, for my dad, it's a break of him he doesn't have to think about work when he's driving, because he can't. If he did, you'd wreck a lot of stuff. So, but we enjoy the family and the friendships that we get to bring out to races.
Yeah, that's rad. I mean, I learned that years ago of spending time with Scott McMillan, and I couldn't understand. I'm like, yeah, this is cool, but why do you love it so much? And he goes, Matt, this is the only time that nobody can call me. All I'm doing is I'm focusing on the car and what's in front of me. And it's like, it's like he's flushing his brain of everything he has to do in his business and life. So, yeah, I think that's a really key aspect for everybody to understand out there is it's almost Zen,
Yeah, when else can you sit all your friends and, down at a table, like your off-road friends and hang out in one spot and get to enjoy the thing that you love, racing. It's passion for a lot of people, and not everyone wants to race. There's, most people out there helping, that's what they want to do. They just want to be a part of it. And so we appreciate it. And, just being out there and having fun.
I think we should coin up a new word and call it Adrenal Zen.
There we go.
Adrenal Zen.
That could be the next energy drink.
There you go, dude. Because these guys are definitely not in their yoga Zen zone when they're out there racing.
Oh, no.
No, but it is. I mean,
Right, yeah.
I know for me driving myself, especially when you get into that flow state, it's my happy place. People are like, hey, cool, you're done with the mint. What are you going to go do? I'm getting in the Razor. I'm going to ride. I need 200 miles, right?
Yep.
And that's what makes me happy, I mean, so, I'm sure you get that in the truck.
Oh, when you're in the, it is different. Driving both trucks, driving the 6100 truck and then the trophy truck, those are 2 different trucks. The 6100, driving it for me, it's kind of like a Sunday cruise. You can sit there and think, you can see the turn coming up. Driving the trick truck, they are so fast nowadays. You're just wide-eyed the whole time, and you're hauling butt and making sure, you try to make sure you don't, cause any damage or any rollovers. And it's 2 different driving.
That's actually a good thing to bring up is there's 2 different styles. Maybe you guys could explain it a little bit more to me. In a 6100 or UTV, you can drive the vehicle, but the other way around in a trophy truck or maybe a class 1, they drive you almost, right? Because there's so much more power.
Oh yeah. So I'll do an example. Vegas to Reno is one that kicks my butt in the trophy truck. Just the heat, and you're focusing so much, and I haven't had a good successful race there. I've raced it 3 times in 6100. I can make it from start to end because I'm not physically draining myself as much. I'm not mentally draining myself because of just the speed difference. I always kind of say it, and a 6100 basically does 85 miles an hour, 100 most, a little bit more if you're on a lake bed. Trophy truck, you're doing 120 in that 85 mile, and so you're just physically.
Yeah, you're on it.
Yeah,
there's no rest. I mean,
there's no rest.
I think the whole program has changed now, because it used to be a handful of guys had really good equipment. Now everybody does.
Everyone does.
So you're going out there, and it's it's not these 3 guys are probably going to win. There's 15 guys.
Well, I think going back to the difference in them. It's off-road. I raced trophy truck for over a decade, then kind of got some opportunities at UTV, and I went and did that, and I'm still doing that. And I went, and did that for honestly 3 years, and I hadn't touched my trophy truck, and we prepped it and went and ran Parker, and I hadn't been in the seat for 3 years. And I went back, and UTV was almost therapeutic, because I can have conversations, and I'm still driving it at its limit, but I'm having side conversations, and it's I can just, muscle memory is allowing me to do it. I jumped back in the trophy truck, hadn't done it for 3 years, went out and tested. My times were just catastrophic. And then I forgot how angry you have to drive a trophy truck to get it to work right. You there's no therapy to it. I mean, you are driving it angry. You have to drive it. It doesn't work right if you're not driving it 100%.
Nope.
And so it's one of those where it's like, it's like he said, it's physically, mentally exhausting to run a trophy truck. A UTV, therapeutic all day long.
That's crazy that you say that. Yeah, so like your processor doesn't have to work as hard, right? Like,
No.
I remember coming from, we just had Kieran on the show. Like, I remember coming from dirt bikes, and I got in a UTV, and I'm like, this is as fast as this thing will go. I feel like I could eat a turkey sandwich.
Yeah.
Like, and so I see what your point is now, Adam.
And it's nothing that, you just, with the 6100 and UTVs or whatnot, you have to think about it. You have to make yourself quicker. I need to get through this corner quicker. And so that's the fun of that too, is that's what I do all the time when I'm racing 6100 is how am I going to make this thing faster through the turn, through the bumps, and that's how you gain and beat your competition.
Does that mean
there.
that you can talk trash to Pops at the dinner table?
No, because he's pretty quick too, man. I give him props, man. He's a badass.
That's the thing I love is, I love seeing, fathers and sons and families race together, especially when they're both having a good time. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty rad.
Well, in the case of these guys, both at a high level, because we were talking about earlier, the Triple Crown, both you guys are leading it, right?
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, no, it's rad. So for you, what's been your best kind of race memory,
Man, there's so many. Just running the elite class is huge, because only a handful of us get to do that. I enjoy racing against the best. That's what I always want to do. When I win, I want to win against the best. Winning your first race is always the first one. That was a Silver State 300 for me, and I got to sneak up on that one. Had a bad qualifying run, which set me back probably 20 minutes from the leaders, and I remember that BJ won, or thought he won, and I come rolling up and I beat him by a minute. So he thought for 20 minutes that he was the winner, and then I won, and I was kind of in shock. I didn't get to celebrate like most people would, because when they came up, it's like, oh, you won. It's like I didn't know how to take it.
Yeah, you're like, wait.
Yeah, what?
Me?
Yeah, and so that that's probably the most memorable one. And then really right now is King of the Hammers for me.
That's a good one.
That's huge.
Again, like what for me, being the promoter and building courses and stuff, like for me, I hate Johnson Valley, and I hate it because it has these little time bombs of rocks hidden in all the soft stuff, right? So it's like, it's just really roulette. It's like you can go and you can do everything perfect, and boom, you got a flat.
Oh, Prim's not much better. Every lap, every rock kind of came up. You'd be like, you would see these basketball-sized boulders come from the course, and it's like, this thing grew legs and went right in the middle of the course. Like, how did this even get here? And they would just pop up every race, and that's on the backside of Prim.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's a special course as well, but I don't know. I just feel like you can see them, whereas in Johnson Valley, they're all hidden.
Yeah.
They're all sneaky. You're like, I didn't hit anything. Why am I getting a flat?
Oh, sure.
But, equally as challenging. So that was a huge one, man. I was there for that one. I saw you at the start. I saw you at the finish, man. I was super stoked for you guys.
And my next one, we were fortunate enough, we won the Mint under my dad's name in 2020.
Yep.
I want one under my name in the trophy truck class.
100%.
That's a goal of mine, because same thing. The Mint is so special to so many people, and it is to us and our family. We've supported it from day one since it came back, and we will do it as long as we possibly can.
No, and I appreciate that, and it means a lot to us to have people like you guys that are so supportive and want to win it. That's what it's about. That's when we know we're doing our job correct.
Oh, without a doubt.
Nice.
I feel like it's cool just to see all the trucks grow, man. Like, there hasn't been, well, in my opinion, there hasn't been as many trucks on the line as there is this year. Like, it seems to me like it's starting to pick up again.
I think it is, and everyone has the 4-wheel drive, 2-wheel drive debate. The 4-wheel drive, they're pretty advanced. But the hard part is it takes them so long to prep. They are not racing that much. It takes them 300, 400 man hours to prep a truck. You can't turn around, So you look at us, we ran our truck. We raced King of the Hammers, did a good prep for the Mint, turned it around in 2 weeks and raced San Felipe. had no mechanical issues, except that was, my fault. Same thing in San Felipe. I dinged a drive shaft with all these big boulders. But that's it. We can turn one of those trucks around a little bit quicker if you're prepared. You can't do that with the four-wheel drive, and I think it's kind of hindering everything else.
I think there's a little bit more to that too, because there is people upgrading the four-wheel drive platform. There's two-wheel drive becoming available, and there's all these pass-me-downs or hand-me-downs that are coming along too. So it's growing and building a class.
Well, to your point, I mean, it's not just turnaround; it's cost, right? And so this is the thing that we're going through this tricky transition where, we watch it happen in short course racing where like all the guys who weren't doing well were like, hey, we need Pro 4s. And no sponsor, no fan was like, well, we need Pro 4s. It was the drivers who wanted it. So they pushed the agenda. And, what they didn't understand is that the sponsorship cash wasn't there to support it. So I kind of feel like the same thing's going on right now. And so it's a little tricky. And then on top of that, you also have, and I'm just going to tear the Band-Aid off. You have guys who only want to race in Baja. And look, I understand that. If I was independently wealthy and I didn't care about anything, that's probably what I would do. But at the end of the day, the most important market is America. And if we're not racing in America, what are we doing, right? And I love Baja, and I'm going to go race in Baja, and we will get to doing a race or more races in Baja because I think it's an important part of our culture. But in the meantime, it's like people need to race the best, and they need to get off their asses and do the major races. Otherwise, they're going to be counted out. And the beauty of this is that I don't decide who wins. The race decides who wins, right? And although, like the Mint this year, it's like Luke wasn't there, Bryce wasn't there, there are a couple other people who weren't there, but I'm like, cool, that gave, now Eric Hardin is the guy.
Yep.
Right? So that change up, to me, makes it really interesting because then it's achievable. What I worry about is, a big team, out moneying everybody and just getting to the point where it's like, well, why are we doing this? Because that guy's going to spend so much money, we don't have a shot. That's not really happening, even with the four-wheel drive, right? Like, I love Bryce. Steve, I absolutely love. I appreciate him spending all the money that he's spending in this sport. So he's spending way more than what he's taking in on sponsorship. I appreciate that. But they're still not dominating, and I think that that's important to recognize. And I think that there's race courses like the Mint 400 that it's going to be a while before four-wheel drive trucks dominate.
Oh, I think so too. And then, the difference with the States, like, I love racing both. Mexico is fun because it's open, pre-run is too. But when I run the States races, I don't feel like I get, I'm not out dollars, but we're all at the same advantage. There's, when there's certain times there's no pre-running. So, you all are dealt the same cards, and I think if you ever notice, the racing's a little bit closer there when you don't have an open pre-run and everyone's pre-running all the time and doing that. I think it stays more fair.
It's an equalizer. I think running in the States is definitely, it equalizes the playing field to an extent because there's certain stipulations put in place, and in Mexico those aren't there. So I agree with you where I think it levels the playing field completely in the States.
Yeah, just running San Felipe alone, for a 250-mile race, I pre-ran 1,200 miles. That course was beat up. Like, it was the last lap of the Mint 400 by the time we started our race.
So let me ask you this. Like, as we go forward with our races, would you prefer pre-running or would you prefer not to have pre-running?
Here, I guess it's a little different. With racing in Prim, it's been not the same course. It can be mixed up, but I know it well.
It's similar. Yeah, it's not going to change radically.
Correct. And so I kind of know where most of the dangers are, stuff like that. So I don't know if pre-running is, really, necessary there.
Sure.
But in some scenarios, yes. Like just one lap, just a sight lap, just so I can mark
exactly a sight lap,
just to know where that one rock is or that one little sharp, edges, and that's it. It would pick up the pace, but it puts everyone on the same playing field if we all know the same stuff.
Like you did that poker run at the UTV Worlds, like that was actually a massive help for a lot of the new racers and stuff too, just to go check out the course. I mean, you could only go 35 miles an hour, but it was still really cool for people to see it.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, like, so let me ask you this. So for California 300, like we're planning on allowing people to pre-run for 2 days, right? To get a look at the course, because the course is different this year. Do you like that, or do you want to...
Well, it makes it easy because being in Barstow, that's close enough for me. It's only 100 miles away, so I can show up, pre-run, do all that stuff, and still be able to go home. So it's close. It's close enough for me. It's kind of like the people in Vegas that go to that race in Prim. It's close enough. So anytime you can pre-run, it definitely makes it better if there is one.
Nice.
Well, it changes the strategy though too, because that means that the track's going to be more beat up. People are going to change their setups, like all kinds of racing craft.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, no, thank you for coming in. It was awesome. Mad props again to both your win at Hammers and third place at the Mint, and looking forward to seeing you win that Triple Crown.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. The first Triple Crown, I want my name on that trophy, as number one, and try to back it up in 2024.
Right on. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, guys.
So, Mitch, why is this bike so drippy?
It's our 23 race bike. We can start up front, work our way to the back. Bones can tell you about the suspension.
The rear shock is one of the most critical parts of the bike.
Pegs with the titanium mounts.
Kashima coating here.
Anti-gravity lightweight battery.
Young's Modulus.
Horse and a half.
Works Chassis Lab.
More tie than a space shuttle.
Really? I might need that repeated.
This thing slaps.
Slaps.
Oh, you should have told me that earlier.
Yeah, that was super dope, man. It's rad. Like, I was joking that Adam's like the Rodney Dangerfield, and those guys, they don't get enough respect. And
same with Hardin, and I think three of the guests we had today, all have never really had respect. Yeah,
I think I'm excited about doing more of these podcasts and just not interviewing, but just talking with people and getting their story, because that's what's rad about off-road is. It's not one story. It's 600, 1,200, 5,000 stories.
Well, you have 490 entries at the Mint, and there's 490 different stories or whatever, that happened.
Yeah, and the best thing is, like, every single person that we talked to today is just passion.
Yeah. That's what it's about. I mean, that's what's rad about this culture is it's, like, built up with so many cool people and so much knowledge. And, like, I can't wait to get into people that people don't even know, like OGs like Tommy Morris. I mean, that guy's been through so much and has so much knowledge. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, Tommy, you start getting down those. I mean, we're talking, well, it's like you and I have talked about before, and we've had conversations with Russ Warnemont. I'm like, I want to see how Russ Warnemont pick that guy's brain,
Yeah, I know. One of the ones we were talking about doing, we need to do it here pretty soon, and it'd be a good excuse to go down to San Felipe is Lynn Cheneth.
Oh yeah,
that'd be a good one. That one will probably need some alcohol, right? So no, I'm pumped. I mean,
that one needs to happen like in the evening, I think.
Right, I'm cool with that.
Yeah,
pull my arm, San Felipe and podcast and drinking with Lynn Cheneth. Yeah, I'm on board.
So we plan on doing this more. Thank you guys for coming. It's going to be rad.
Oh, I mean, it's a big year for you guys, big year for off-road, it's a big year for me. I mean, George, like, it's just funny, just us three individually. George, I know what you're doing with, like, with the tracking and things like that, and, the live in-car footage. Obviously, you guys have the big
Dirt
Parker
Life,
house.
let's not forget.
Yeah, he's
Dirt
got
Life.
his show Dirt Life. I mean, you guys with bringing in Parker and the Triple Crown, I got a bunch of stuff going on that, we'll talk about at some point, but it's like, it's an awesome... Off-road's got his mojo back, for everybody involved. And I think we had a couple years there where things were a little rocky with, COVID and everything. But off-road in general has its mojo back.
Yeah, I agree, man. I can't wait. And I'm glad that you guys are starting this podcast, dude. It's going to share some really good stories.
Right on. Looking forward to it, guys.